The sandstorm rose like a living wall, scratching the sky with shades of copper and gold. In the midst of the chaos, automated excavators worked in silence, while human figures, wrapped in pressurized suits, fought against the wind. And then, in the midst of that alien desert, something emerged from the dust. A face. Perfect. Human. Perfect. Human. Carved from black stone, with details so precise that no natural process could have created. This perfect, human, created them. Storm ceased for an instant, and the echo of silence seemed to cross the centuries. "Dr. Hale, you need to see that." The voice came trembling through the communicator. She moved closer, her heart beating in rhythm with each heavy step. When the sand fell, revealing the full outline, the group realized the impossible. The statue did not represent an alien, nor a deity. It was the face of a modern human. The dating sensors confirmed what no one had the courage to say. 200,000 years. Before the first known human civilization. Before the Earth as we know it. The wind blew again, carrying fine particles of dust that shimmered under the double light of the twin stars. Dr. Evelyn Hale, the mission's chief archaeologist, stood motionless in front of the figure. She didn't feel fear. She felt recognition. "It's impossible," said the geologist next to her. "This structure predates the emergence of Homo sapiens." She replied without looking away. "Then created them." "Away. Then explain why he looks like us." The statue, buried up to the chest, displayed a metallic necklace with almost erased inscriptions. But under the scanner's lens, a sequence formed. An alphabet that no computer recognized except for 3 letters legible in Old English. HOM, the wind whispered between the rocks. Evelyn touched the cold surface of the stone. For a brief moment, he felt away, then felt a vibration, a weak pulse, almost a beat. "It's alive?" asked one of the assistants. She stepped back, confused. "No, it's as if remembering." On the horizon, the excavation base reflected artificial lights on the reddish soil. It was the planet Erebus 9, located 400 light-years from Earth. No record indicated a previous life, Hunt felt until that day. Early analyses showed something more disturbing. The mineral composition of the statue was identical to the terrestrial rock. Not similar, identical. "That's not a coincidence," Hale said. "Or they came from there, or we come from here." As the crew retreated to escape another storm, an autonomous camera remained recording. And that night, in the midst of darkness, the ground around the statue shook. The sand gave way, revealing the top of an underground staircase that spiraled down, shrouded in bluish light. Until, as if the planet were opening its eyes for the first time in millennia. Evelyn hurried back to the camp. The signal from the cameras trembled, and when he looked at the feed on the screen, he realized something impossible. Behind the statue, partially buried, there was another petrified body. A human man wearing a uniform with the insignia of the Erebus 9 mission itself. The entrance to the ruins was opened at dawn. The twin stars of Erebus 9 cast 2 beams of light over the desert, turning the sand into a golden mirror. The wind had ceased, as if the entire planet was watching what was about to happen. Dr. Evelyn Hale descended first, accompanied by a team of 5 specialists. Each step sounded like an echo of buried centuries. The spiral corridor was made of a smooth, cold, indecipherable material, not stone, not metal, something in between. As they descended, the sensors recorded signs of residual energy. It was impossible. Those ruins must have been dead for hundreds of millennia, but something still pulsated down there. At the end of the tunnel, the space opened up into a huge chamber. The floor was covered in incandescent symbols, geometric patterns that resembled both the pyramids of Egypt and Mayan glyphs. Hale looked around, the beam of the lantern shaking slightly. "Are a mixture of various human cultures," the linguist said. But some of them hadn't even emerged when this was built. The walls were adorned with reliefs that showed human figures, not aliens, humans. wearing clothing that seemed too technological for any known time. One of the murals showed a curious scene, men and women holding up a glowing sphere in front of a sky with 2 stars, just like Erebus 9. Be behind Erebus 9. The detail that chilled everyone's blood was just below. Engraved on a metal plate in Old English, it read, Primeval Era, Erebus 9, Phazis 1, Colonization. The geologist dropped the scanner. That doesn't make sense. This inscription uses the same terrestrial alphabet, but it is more than 200,000 years old. Evelyn knelt down to touch the sign. The material seemed to react to the heat of the skin, emitting a soft glow. Phase glow. If this is real, she whispered, Soma glow. Then Unkind was not born on Earth. Suddenly, one of the walls vibrated slightly. The ground shook. Cracks opened between the murals, then murals, and a thin blue light began to escape. The linguist approached and realized that it was an energy panel. Murals. A translucent surface that displayed shadows behind it. When he touched it, the panel dissolved like luminous dust. On the other side, a corridor full of human statues was revealed. Men, women, Chai, a woman, Andaldrin, a woman, and all sculpted in natural positions, as if they had been frozen in time. But the scariest detail was on their faces. They didn't look dead. Seemed asleep. Hale took a few steps forward. The sculptures had serene expressions, closed eyes, hands clasped on their chests. Each wore the same necklace around her neck with the inscription HOM, the same letters found on the surface. She swallowed, eyes, and swallowed. Human origin matrix, muttered the engineer. A genetic project, or a collective memory. As they examined, swallowed. Examined it, a motion detector began to beep. Examined it, beep. Commander, I'm detecting heartbeat. Beep, a heartbeat. Heartbeat, down here. Yes, very lenient but stable. As if these people were still alive. The team instinctively retreated. At the back of the room, a circular door began to open, emitting the same grave tone heard when the statue was discovered. Beyond it, a new chamber, spherical heartbeat, spherical L, bathed in a golden light. In the center, a stone table, spherical, table, and on it, human portraits. Not drawings, digital portraits, perfectly preserved, displaying faces of people with modern features. Suitable, some identical to members of the team itself. The linguist fell to his knees. These images, they belong to us. Evelyn approached slowly, touching one of the portraits. The screen reacted, displaying a line of text. Record 47. Erebus 9 mission, 2237 AD. Time seemed to stop. They were looking to the future. Or maybe for the echo of a cycle that has already happened. The air in the chamber seemed denser. This was no ordinary room. It was an archive of impossibilities. The portraits on the table pulsated in sequence, as if an invisible presence were awakening them one by one. Each face gained color, life, move, some life, andament. Evelyn Hale watched in silence. The first portrait was that of a man in a scientific uniform, with a serious expression, brown eyes fixed on the camera. She immediately recognized the logo on her chest. Land Exploration Agency, Yalif and Yirar 2237. The same emblem she wore on her costume. That's a trick of light, said the engineer, his voice trembling. Evelyn did not answer. She brought the scanner closer, year closer, and the result made her freeze. The facial prints matched 99.8% with members of the team itself. The linguist walked away, pale. If the dating is right, these images are 200,000 years old. Either we are 200,000 years behind, replied Hale. The lights in the room flickered. A low hum began to vibrate through the walls. The portraits were scratched, forming a holographic projection. From the center of the table, a translucent human figure emerged, composed of particles of golden light. He was a man. His voice echoed with unearthly calm. You came back too soon. The silence was absolute. Who are you? Asked Hale. I am Record 47, one of the last to remember what happened to the first humanity. The team looked at each other. The hologram continued, unwavering. We came before you, much earlier. We have built worlds, we have sown species, we closer species, and have opened the path that you are now traveling. And then, time has forgotten us, the linguist interrupted. It's species, and interrupted. It's a saying that you, were they human? We are. We still are. You are the echoes, imperfect reflections of who we were. Each cycle starts again when the universe rewrites itself. Evelyn stepped forward, trying to contain her disbelief. You're saying that? Is interrupted. Is the Earth a copy? The hologram raised its head. The Earth is a memory, a distant reflection of Erebus, our original world. The whole chamber pulsed with light. Symbols on the walls began to glow, projecting star maps with lines connecting planets. They all pointed to the same central point. Erebus is Erebus 9.9. The engineer began to laugh nervously. Erebus 9, nervously. That's impossible. Nothing has survived 200,000 years. Nothing, replied the voice, except repentance. The lights dimmed. The figure looked directly at Hale. You should never have come back. Time is not linear here. As you descended, you did not find the past. You have opened up the future we have buried. The whole room shook. The statues in the surrounding chambers began to vibrate, not cracking, but breathing. Sensors picked up faint biological waves, identical to those of a sleeping human body. The hologram dissolved into golden particles, leaving one last message floating in the air. When the last one remembers, the cycle will begin again. Dr. Hale tried to record the data, but the devices began to fail. The cameras showed interference, rapid flashes of unfamiliar human faces, floating cities, teem nervously, cities, and peals under seas of stars. Images of the future from the past? It was impossible to say. In the corner of the room, one of the statues moved. The sand slowly fell from his petrified face, revealing human eyes, opened for the first time in millennia. Evelyn felt the ground vibrate beneath her feet. It wasn't an earthquake, it was a beating heart, cities, and that of the planet. The shaking ceased as suddenly as it began. The lights in the room stabilized again, and the silence that followed was almost religious. In the center of the chamber, among the sleeping sculptures, there was something that everyone had ignored until that moment. A sphere suspended in the air, encased in filaments of bluish energy. Dr. Evelyn Hale approached slowly. The sphere floated a few inches from the pedestal, spinning slowly, as if feeling the human presence. Its surface was liquid and solid at the same time, reflective like glass, but with the vivid texture of translucent skin. The linguist pointed to the scanner. There is no form of detectable energy, but it's making sounds. They held their breath. A low hum began to echo, soft at first, then turning into a chorus of human voices, distorted, as if 1,000 people were talking at the same time under the water. Evelyn held out her hand. The touch was light, almost reverent. The instant his skin touched the sphere, the entire room transformed. The holograms lit up on the walls, forming full-scale images, floating cities, crystal temples, that temples, Andins walking between luminous towers. The sky had 2 stars, the same ones that shone over Erebus, but those constructions were impossible. Technology that would make any modern civilization seem primitive. A female voice echoed in the air, clear, calm, Sir Temples, and calm, and Dean. Welcome back. You came back too soon. The team froze. It's the same voice as the previous recording, said the engineer. The sphere shone brighter. I am the living archive. I am the memory of the first humanity, guardian of all that we were and of all that we will be again. Evelyn stepped forward. What is Erebus? A planet? A home? Erebus was the origin. the first abode of the human species, before time breaks. The holograms have changed. They showed what appeared to be a cosmic cataclysm, the sky tearing apart, stars being sucked into a dark crevice, and calm and crevice, and dire civilizations being swallowed by a vortex of light. Time was the first to die, continued the voice. And when time dies, it rewrites itself. Dr. Hale watched mesmerized. Did you create the earth? We let the earth be born. We send fragments of ourselves through the temporal veil, sowing worlds. The hope was that in some cycle, you would find your way back. The linguist looked at Evelyn, pale. So are we temporal clones? Don't clones. Crevice and clone. Echoes. You are the echo of our memory, trying to remember who you are. The ground shook again. The statues began to glow, not with light, but with projected memories. Each figure showed a moment of life, like ghosts reliving their last moments. A man holding a child, a woman looking at the double sky, all human, all aware clone, all worry that they were being erased. First humanity. All were humanity fell trying to master time, said the voice. But time is not mastered. He just waits. Evelyn was breathing hard. Why did you bring us back? Why now? Because the cycle is closing. And when the last echo understands who it was, the veil will be opened again. The sphere began to glow golden. Power lines have sprung up on the ground, connecting each statue to the base of the pedestal. You have a choice, said the voice. Closing the cycle and letting the memory sleep, or open it, humanity opening up and bring it opening, bringing all back. The engineer shouted, if we open, what happens? Mankind will remember itself. The sphere pulsed one last time. A what? And in the image that emerged made everyone retreat. The reflection on the surface showed the current Earth, blue and serene. But under the oceans, there were structures identical to the ruins of Erebus. You never left the house, said the voice. The house has just forgotten about you. The glow has faded. The sphere fell on the pedestal and went out. Evelyn stood still, feeling the echo of the words reverberating inside her mind. Time at that moment seemed to resemble his own face. The silence that followed was heavier than the air itself. The sphere was motionless, cold, dull, and cold, and dull. But something had changed. The air inside the chamber seemed to vibrate differently, cold and ace, as if the particles in the environment themselves remembered what they were. Dr. Evelyn Hale was breathing hard. The images of the earth beneath the seas, the identical ruins, the as ruins, and necklace with the inscription HOM, every ruins and everything began to line up. But logical reasoning struggled with something bigger, the instinctive sense that that truth had always been hidden within humanity. The linguist broke his silence. Everything silence. If all this is true, so was silence. If Thene are not the first humans. Evelyn replied without looking at him. Not even the last ones, only the next ones. The sphere emitted a faint pulse, like a sigh. The ground shone again, and the hologram from the living archive returned. But now, Diphthanow its errant. It was no longer a faceless voice. It was a woman, tall, golden-eyed, with features identical to Evelyn's. The loop closes, Evelyn Hale, said the figure. We left the memory for when you were ready. Evelyn stepped forward, startled. How do you know my name? Because you've lived here. You were one of the last of the first humanity. Time seemed to stop. The linguist leaned against one of the statues, breathless. The engineer dropped the equipment. Evelyn simply stood still. What are we then? She asked in a low voice. Reflections, replied the figure. Cycles of remembrance. When time collapsed, it divided humanity into mirrored eras. You are the most recent reflection. Now it's a copy of what we were, trying to return to the origin. The walls of the chamber began to project new images. The history of the first humanity. Men and women dominating the stars, traveling between galaxies, rebuilding worlds. civilization so old that the constellations themselves had already changed since then. "We sow life," continued the voice. "Every habitable world carries fragments of us, genes, ideas, thedias, andories. You, the humans of the New Age, are made of the same fabric that we created." The linguist looked at her, still in disbelief. Evolution on Earth was planned, unplanned, remembered. The holograms showed the fall, towers shattering, oceans swallowing cities, Aleedias and cities, and Duminous rift tearing through the sky. When time began to fail, we created the veil, a barrier between eras. We send our consciousnesses through time, without bodies, only memories. Some settled on Earth. Others stayed here, waiting. Evelyn approached the projection, tears in her eyes. Why hide all this? Because time is a prison made of fear. Every time humanity remembers too much who it is, the cycle collapses. So we need to forget, to start over. The whole chamber shook. The statues began to disintegrate into luminous dust, rising like inverted fire. The floor cracked, revealing a golden core pulsating in the center of the room, the heart of Erebus. Erebus is the first world and the last. He keeps the seed of the next humanity. Evelyn looked at the core and then at the figure. That depends on your choice. You can reopen the cycle and merge with us, becoming one with first humanity. Unticities and humanity until the last star dies. The hologram approached her, almost human, almost real. But remember, Evelyn Hale, each time time is rewritten, you suffer less and remember less. Perfection is oblivion. The brightness increased. The walls began to dissolve into light, as if the planet itself was being erased or reborn. Evelyn closed her eyes. In the midst of the flash, one last sentence echoed in his mind. Humanity is not a species. It's a memory trying to exist. The light slowly receded, like the last breath of a dream. When Evelyn opened her eyes, the hologram was gone. But something in the world had changed. Profoundly humanity, until profoundly. The air seemed to vibrate. The ground breathed beneath his feet, and the horizon of Erebus was no longer the same. They ran to the surface. The double sky was gone. Now there was only one sun, and profoundly, and a familiar outline was drawn beyond the clouds. Oceans, mountain ranges, continents, and continents, yet not those of Erebus, those of Earth. The engineer stumbled, trying to process the data. Continents. It is not possible. We are at the same point as the Earth's coordinates. But the gravitational clocks indicate a time deviation of 200,000 years. Evelyn closed her eyes, letting the cold wind touch her face. The desert that was once red now turned into a bluish, humid plain, filled with mist, as if the planet were turning back time in front of them. "Time is not passing," said the linguist in a hoarse voice. "He's coming back." The shuttle's monitors showed absurd data. The local magnetic field was reversing. Particles of matter and antimatter were dancing in unstable equilibrium. It was as if reality was unfolding, revealing two versions of themselves. Evelyn walked to the edge of a hill. There, where there had once been the desert, now stood a forest, alive, moist, pulsating. She knelt down, touched the ground, and whispered, "Erebus is not another planet. Erebus is the Earth, before being Earth." The engineer stared at her in shock. "You mean, have we come to our own past?" "Not exactly," she replied. "We have come to the previous reflection of time. For the beginning that always repeats itself." The linguist watched the horizon, fascinated. That would explain the genetic similarities, the symbols, everything. Humanity did not evolve twice. It just restarted. But there was something wrong. The readings began to fluctuate violently. Gravitational waves traveled through the ground. The air trembled to have trembled at a low frequency to be heard, but the body felt it. The entire planet seemed to struggle with its own temporal collapse. "Commander, the nucleus is reactivating," the engineer shouted. "We are at the epicenter of a causal fold." In plain Portuguese, Evelyn replied, "What does that mean?" "It means we're about to meet." At the same moment, the horizon trembled. A luminous crack opened in the sky, a golden tear that divided the firmament. On the other side, the contemporary Earth trembled at the cities, the oceans, the orbiting satellites. It was as if the present and the past were mirroring each other. Evelyn stared at the slit, unblinking. "We are the beginning and the end of the same circle," she said. "Humanity never began. She's always been coming back." Communications exploded with interference. Voices echoed in frequency, human voices. The Bluetooth with different timbres, delayed, distorted. "Evelyn, do you hear me?" The voice was her own. Older, tired, but tired, de-tired. "Do not open the veil. Do not complete the cycle. That's how it all starts again." She stepped back, trembling. The team watched her in silence. Docilence. "Is this a recording?" asked the engineer. "It's me, trying to prevent what has already happened." The ground began to crack. Lines of golden light spiraled up, connecting heaven to earth. The statues that remained below began to disintegrate, their particles rising through the air as inverted ash. Evelyn looked into the portal and saw, through it, the modern Earth, and herself, looking back inside a laboratory. Two realities, two times, two reflections of the same mind. "The cycle is repeating itself," he murmured. "And if we close the veil, we lose who we were. But if we open it up, maybe we'll remember who we really are." The rift expanded, engulfing the horizon. The temporal waves distorted everything: light, sound, oscillance, sound, and dote. Evelyn stepped forward. For a moment, she saw the perfect reflection of herself. And before the veil closed, he whispered, "Perhaps sound," and whispered, "Perhaps the first humanity never died. She was just waiting for us to remember." And then, the world split in two. The light of the portal disappeared, and the silence returned like a veil of ashes. The wind had stopped. The suspended particles floated motionless, trapped in an instant out of time. Evelyn Hale looked around and realized she was no longer in Erebus, nor on Earth. It was in both. The ground beneath his feet was half desert, half forest. The sky showed two moons on one side and whispered, "Perhaps side," and an artificial satellite on the other. Space and time had merged into a single landscape, a reflection of all eras coexisting. The team was mute. The linguist whispered, "I think we've gone through the cycle. We don't travel back in time. We become part of it." Suddenly, a gentle vibration ran through the air. Not sound, but memory. Points of light began to emerge between the trees and the ruins, rising like sentient sparks. Each one of them took shape slowly, until they transformed aside and transformed into translucent human figures, mad transformed figures made of golden energy. Men, women, figures made women, andaldren, with serene features, bright eyes, and soft gestures. They didn't look like ghosts. They seemed like vivid memories. Evelyn stepped forward. The figures made room for her, as if they recognized her. One of them, with a deep look and a soft voice, said, "Women," and said, "Welcome back, daughter of the Echo." The air was shaking. "Who are you?" asked Evelyn. "We are the ones who remember. The first humanity never left," said. "It had only dissolved in memory itself. Each of us has lived 1,000 times, and he forgot 1,000 times more." The surrounding lights began to pulse in sync with human heartbeats. Evelyn felt the vibration inside her chest, as if her body was being tuned to the frequency of those voices. "You have crossed the veil." The figure continued, "And that means the cycle is ready to close. Or start over." The engineer stepped forward. "You mean, what can we choose?" They always could, but they never remembered that they could. The sky began to open again, revealing the glow of the temporal rift, now stable, smooth, goal. It smooth, and then. Inside, the image of the modern Earth flickered like a liquid mirror. On the other side, Millions of human faces watched, unaware that they were looking into their own past. The figure approached Evelyn, reaching out. "Come, join us, and the cycle will end. Mankind will once again be one, memory and flesh, past and future." Evelyn felt the warmth of that presence, but something inside her resisted. What if we choose to go back? The light flickered. So they will continue to forget. Life will start again. So does the pain. But there will be one more chance to understand. The team was waiting for his decision. The linguist cried silently. The engineer tightened the HOM necklace around his neck. Evelyn looked up at the sky, half night, half day, and understood the weight of choice. "If we go with you, will we cease to exist?" "No," replied the figure. "You will stop starting over." Evelyn took a deep breath. The air smelled of dust, sea smooth and memories. She looked at her team, then at the earth reflected beyond the veil. Sea veil. Humanity needs to make mistakes again. That's how she remembers it. The figures smiled. None of them seemed disappointed. "Then go," they said in unison. "And when the last echo breathes, we will wait for it." The light began to fade. The sky closed, the veil closed, and wind blew again. The figures slowly dissolved, turning into particles that floated through the air and blended into the horizon. Evelyn looked down at her hands. In them, the particles glowed for a few seconds before disappearing. She whispered, "We are made of remembrance." The portal opened one last time. Without saying anything, she crossed over. Behind her, the sound of a cosmic heart once throbbed, and the world went out. The silence of dawn was the first sound she heard. Evelyn Hale opened her eyes slowly, feeling the cold air of modern Earth. She was lying on a metal surface, surrounded by white lights and the distant sound of machines. The ceiling above it was familiar, panels from an Earth orbital station. For a moment, he thought it was all a dream. But as he sat down, he saw the reflection in the glass of the capsule next to it. The same gold necklace with the inscription HOM hung around his neck. She touched him, feeling the hot, lively metal, pulsing like a heart. The communicator emitted a hiss. "Dr. Hale, do you hear us? The Erebus 9 mission failed. The ship was reported lost 6 months ago. How did you get back?" She looked out the panoramic window. The Earth rotated slowly below, surrounded by blue auroras. The planet seemed more alive, more aware. Evelyn tried to answer, but the words didn't come, because something inside her knew. She closed, and she had never left. Erebus and Terra were the same body, two versions of the same being, separated only by a warp in time. Humanity has never traveled to the stars. She just returned home. As technicians tried to understand how she had survived, Evelyn watched the necklace glowing on her chest. When he touched it again, a small projection lit up in the air. The symbol of first humanity, a circle with 2 intertwined stars, and along with the symbol, a message. When the last one remembers, the cycle will begin again. She stood up. The station's monitors began to fail, displaying flashes, ancient cities, golden seas, Humshasias, and statues emerging from the sand. Time, once again, tried to remember who it was. On the Earth's horizon, the oceans reflected lights that did not come from the sun. Energetic waves coursed through the atmosphere, forming fleeting figures, human seas, and faces of pure light, like echoes of the first humanity looking back. Evelyn smiled. I knew that the cycle had started again. She knew that at some point in the future, another version of her would find those ruins again, and the memory would reawaken, because humanity never dies. She just rediscovers herself. The engineer hurried into the observation room. "Doctor, satellites are detecting an anomaly under the Pacific Ocean. The sensors say it has 200,000 years. Evelyn closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. She already knew what it was. The next memory, the next echo. "Prepare the mission," she said calmly. "History wants to be remembered." The surrounding screens began to flash one by one, displaying the same old symbol. A soft, almost human chorus echoed through the station's speakers, the same voices she had heard inside the sphere at Erebus. The doctor walked to the window and watched the dawn tear through the sky. The lights danced in golden spirals, identical to those that enveloped the ancient ruin. She smiled and muttered to herself, "We are made of stardust." And as a souvenir, for a brief instant, the lights of the earth formed a single word in the clouds before disappearing: home. And as the planets swirled silently in the void, Evelyn felt something deep, not fear, not doubt, but belonging. Humanity has never been just flesh or mind. She was the echo of the universe itself, trying to remember herself. And at that moment, for the first time, she understood. The first humanity never ended. She just hoped that someone would open their eyes and say, "I remember." If this story has made you feel the weight of infinity, the mystery of time, origin, and human destiny, subscribe to the channel now. Activate the bell and come explore with me the hidden echoes of the cosmos, where every memory can be the beginning of a new universe.